Alright, so this could be a quick video about Microsoft Hyper-V Server. It's Microsoft's free hypervisor. Um, so you can just download free, no licensing. It does have some restrictions. It's command line only. It has the Hyper-V feature, failover clustering feature pre-installed. Um, and not much else. So you can't, spin this up as an Active Directory server or anything like that that I'm aware of. It does have some of the storage spaces direct items. I haven't checked that recently, but I have done it in the past where you could do like storage spaces direct and that kind of thing. I'm not sure you can do that without Active Directory, so you would have to have some sort of Active Directory in place. I'm sure there's some solutions. Linux Active Directories that operate at 2008 R2 functional level might work. Not sure, but this is going to focus on just you have one box. It's kind of your Hyper-V test server. You're just gonna try to get familiar with Hyper-V or just get around a couple of VMs. Linux is pretty well supported on Hyper-V as of 2016, which is what this is. And again, it's free. So let's get started. So one of the things you will notice is when you log in, you land at this page. Um, so one thing you can do to configure this is run what's called sconfig. I've already renamed this box and configured some of the networking settings, so I don't really need to do this. But this utility is available and you can configure it. What I'm going to do is install a uh, web management pane for this. Um, it's called Windows Admin Center. It was previously called Honolulu. It is free, um, and it's kind of a replacement for a lot of the old MMC uh, Windows administration tools. Uh, so what we're going to do is we're going to install this on this and basically give this Hyper-V server a web front end. Obviously, you want to take precautions to secure this. You don't want to connect this to the internet. You want it behind a firewall. Um, I have virtualized firewalls. I've talked to security professionals on either side of the fence to say you don't want to do that, and the other ones to say it doesn't really matter where the stack is. Obviously, there's vulnerabilities either way, so dealer's choice. I say get a physical firewall if you're really concerned about it, and then set this behind it. Um, But let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to fire up PowerShell, which you saw me do by start PowerShell. Um, and we're going to use what's called invoke command. Now what this is, I'm sorry, not invoke command, invoke web request. And what this allows you to do is download things from the command like wget Linux, and pull these down. So I've already gone out and found the link. And I'm going to go ahead and set that up for you now. Another way you can do this is download the file onto one computer, go to the Windows admin share, which is, whack whack IP or server name, depending on your DNS configuration, whack $, drop the MSI file in there, and then execute it. So, yes, this is command line, but you can run some MSI files that do have a GUI, and they will pop up, and I will show you that in just a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is I know where I want this to output. So we're going to use an environmental path, which is env, profile user profile. I have some notes off screen here. So that gives us our basic one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up available. So we want this, the Winman Admin Center. I'm going to call it IN. What we're going to do is we're going to use that environmental variable, env user profile. But we're also going to tack something onto it, which is, now the last part of this is the name. So it's basically like you're downloading it and renaming it at the same time. So as long as the extension's the same, so you can download all sorts of stuff from the internet. I have a script that pulls Java, the latest Java version. It downloads it as a certain name so that I have some automation scripts that'll go ahead and update my Java for my Minecraft servers. And um, that's actually funny enough, has made it into my professional work, as we have a couple utilities that require that, and it's used to automate the Java installation and update. I know there's tools out there from Microsoft Shop, and we didn't have a lot of cycles to try to get some of the tools to do it, so we just, you know, a scheduled task. I'm rambling a little bit here, but when you only have one or two systems that need that, it's just easier to use a scheduled task and a PowerShell script. So we're going to go ahead and enter here, and that's assign that into memory. So if we go, we're going to get our path that we want for the download. So if we do invoke web request, now I have already gotten the path, but if you go to any site and there's like a download button or something like that, and you click, right click it and say copy link path, you can get this. So this is the URL to download that file, and then we're going to go out file, and we're going to give it our variable, which was C. Now, yeah, I'm sure you're wondering why we've assigned this as a variable, and I should have explained it earlier. It's so that when we go to trigger this, it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead. That's going to go ahead and download that. It's going to take a second or two. Maybe a little longer than a second or two. Now, another thing I have done temporarily just to make my life a little easier, and something you really don't want to do, is if you run this is the Windows firewall, and there's a lot of easy ways to open stuff and things like that. You'll see this says enabled faults. Now I have run this so that I've set uh, firewall, and if you do this, and you go like so, that's gonna disable it. And at 0 is false. You can also do if I spell it right, do that. I just prefer the 0. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the command. 99% of the time it works, and I just like it. It's simpler. And also, if I ever want to roll it, it's really easy. But you can see that these are all disabled. I did that just for simplicity's sake. It's not recommended. It's one of those things, do as I say, not as I do, because that Windows firewall is specifically there for microsegmentation, which is a security thing. If you're using this for home use, it's probably not as important, but if you have like 6 servers or more, in a large environment, the Windows firewall helps if one box is compromised to kind of somewhat contain that. It's not always 100%, but security is always a matter of layers. There's no one magic thing that's going to stop that. So you can see we've already got our file downloaded. So I have not tested this part, so we're going to find out if it works, but we can trigger, yeah, so we can see our things there. And as you can see, by running the ampersand in front, that basically says, hey, go execute this text that's in there, the string, which is, of course, our path. And as you can see, that kicks this off. So again, a GUI installer. So MSIs are pretty good. I've had mixed results with .exes. But again, I want this to get updates. Yes. 443, I'm using self-sign. This will expire in 60 days. I'm sure you can go to Let's Encrypt and get yourself a cert. Or if you're super fancy and have your own certificate authority, which if you do, this video's way below your level. So on and so forth. So we're going to hit install. That's going to go ahead and install this now. We're going to get the IP of this box once this is done installing. You can skip ahead of this. I'm not going to edit this video. I'm lazy. I just thought it'd be a cool tutorial. but perhaps while that's going, we can go into some of the other features here. Um, Another thing you could do, you don't have to remote desktop into this. In this case, I've enabled it through the sconfig, which is one of those options. As you can see, this is completed. So we're going to finish. We're going to downsize this first. We're going to get the IP. Uh, you can do PowerShell remoting. It gets a little tricky without a domain, but you could. In this case, we have the web. So now we have this running. So we're going to go to our other box here. We're going to put in this, or maybe not. Okay, so there's no redirect. But HTTPS, you put the IP address in, and then this is not going to load in Internet Explorer. Oh, perhaps it will. Well, actually, it won't. It won't look right. So what we're going to do is you're going to see me download Chrome because I just rock that way. So this is HTML5, so it doesn't really play nice with Internet Explorer half the time. Edge, it works fine. Edge hasn't made it to the server environment. That's what I have here is kind of one of my test boxes. Um, Firefox I've tested with, works fine. I haven't done it with Opera. I do have a Mac, but again, your mileage may vary. So let's go back to this here. We're going to say advanced. We're going to proceed. Now it's going to want the credentials for the because you're challenging a box that's work group, and there's no way for it to authenticate. So what we're going to do, and I'm sure there's some way to change this, but what we're going to do is we're going to do localhost administrator. You should probably use a different account. I'm lazy on this case, and this is just for a demo video. And you can save. So here's the Windows Admin Center. So we're going to go next, next, finish. Now you can manage more than one box. We utilize this professionally at my work. We also I utilize this as home for my lab. It's a little more robust when you have an Active Directory infrastructure behind it. But for the typical home user, this is more than adequate. So we'll click this. Again, sure, you can set this up for anonymous access. I have not looked into that yet. So you're going to enter the credentials. So both of these are the credentials for the machine you're running this on. So we have localhost. You could also run this on your desktop if you wanted to, and then connect to the machine remotely, kind of like the VMware and the Zen server clients. I just like hosting it on the box that I'm going to be using this with if it's kind of a standalone. So let's do this. Oops, wrong password. And it looks like it's the first time I've had to run this in work group. So, oh, come on. It works. So there's some tweaks you might have to do. As you can see, this is connecting to that box. So once you get through password hell, and again, I'm not going to go into how to configure that so that you don't have to get those challenges. You get this. So this is my machine. You can see I've got some metrics here. Probably don't want to enable disk metrics. That turns on a feature, I believe, in Task Manager that can actually have disk performance issues. So don't turn that on. Don't quote me. You can edit the computer ID. Might challenge me for another password. It did not, thank God. You can join it to the domain. discard those changes. We can go to certificates. We can look at certificates of the system. Um, so we can see all this. We can go to devices. We can see the device manager. So we see all the devices connected to this box. I probably need to get some drivers on this. We can look at events. Uh, so this will load. You'll see all your events. So this is, oh, looks like that didn't like that. So something we might have to tweak with. Files. We'll see if this works. Yeah. So you can see some of the files. Firewall. You control the Windows firewall from here. Outgoing, incoming rules, so on and so forth. Local user and groups, network. So you can see we've got our IP, NIC configured, and all that good stuff. PowerShell, I'm not going to go into that because it requires me to authenticate again, but it'll basically PowerShell remoting. Processes, pretty self-evident. That's all the processes running on the system. You can modify the registry. Remote desktop, it's been a little finicky on the revision that I have been using. But hopefully they're really dumping a lot of management into this, so I'm hoping that that gets a little better. Roles and feature, that's pretty obvious. That's Hyper-V failover clustering again because you're running Hyper-V server. There's not a lot of options here. Services, same thing. Both services are running storage. This comes in here. You can see your volumes, your disk. This actually works much better than the remote disk management tools. So if you need to like initialize disk, create a disk, you can see that I have the OS installation is a mirrored volume from my array controller, my HP array controller. Storage replica you can set up. I don't remember if that's available in Hyper-V Server. I don't think it is. Updates, you can manage Windows updates from here. You can trigger them, do all sorts of stuff. Now this one's a really cool one here. So virtual machines, you can create, monitor, and manage your virtual machines straight from here. And again, you can see a little icon, more coming soon. So you can go to inventory. I have none, but I could go new. That gives me all the options to deploy a new virtual machine. Virtual switches, so I could build my virtual switches in here and associate them with network adapters and whatnot. So again, this is really powerful, and I'm running this on a free Hyper-V server. This tool is free, and I've just basically given that Windows Hyper-V server a GUI, a remote GUI, so I can access this from wherever this network is connected. I mean, you could expose this to the internet. I'm not sure I would do that, but you could. If you're going through that, probably wouldn't use a self-sign cert, but each his own. But yeah, so that's pretty much the overview of giving Hyper-V Server a GUI. I hope you enjoyed. I apologize for the rambling. I did want to do this really quick. I actually have a use for this server that I'm working on, and I wanted to take the opportunity to show you that it is possible to install a GUI and have that functionality in a free version of Hyper-V Server. And unfortunately, these videos might probably be coming randomly. If I'm doing something, I think somebody might be interested in it. I'll make a recording of it really quick and throw it up. Not gonna edit anything, so be prepared for rambling and be prepared to fast forward. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, our Facebook page, Flip Your Bit, post them there. We have a group that we've set up. You can put stuff there. It's very loosely organized. It's just a bunch of nerds trying to do some fun stuff. Thanks again for watching.